Okay, guys. Today I'm gonna talk about the march, the 24th March. So all this Millennium and high school, they're gonna do in March. So I think it's next 3 weeks. So I think it's interesting that those march going. It's not just marching for their lives. I think those generations they have to become a leader tomorrow, and that's why I'm gonna do this video, because some of these millennium or some of these kids that they haven't seen, or they haven't read history, or they haven't read the history of the United States, because those children maybe they don't even remember who is Clinton, who is George Bush, who is Reagan, and who did all this invasion in Cuba, who did all invasion in Chile, who did all invasion in Iraq, and who did all invasion in Dominican Republic, and all these invasions. So the march of our lives that they say, I think it's a march of our life too, as a human, because I know one of those children's, one of those millenniums, he will come as a president of the United States. So, but I do this video because so many of those millenniums, maybe they don't study history, they don't study presidential political history, but they watch videos, the technology in their hand, and they always want the answer fast, just like those messengers, like in Facebook and Twitter or in YouTube. So I hope one of those millenniums watches these videos, that the change is coming, and enough is enough for those invasions. Enough is enough to killing, to have guns in the hands of some evils and some terrorists. So that's why I'm doing this video, because as you know now, the president, he's leaving the United States behind with his policies. So in those elections, and I know those millenniums, those kids that they marching against gun control next week, and I'm telling you, all these policies that being voted in Congress in United States, they have been wrong. All this past generation, they fucked out the system. They fucked out the other countries. So now these generations, that's why I have faith in those kids. I have faith in those millenniums, because I know we had a bright future ahead of us, but we have to support them, and we have to give them those materials to make them think as a human who we are, and as a human what world that we can make better for our next generations. A world of peace, not war, not nuclear war. So I'm just gonna thank you to all these students that they walking out, they marching for our lives, but they marching too for our planet, for marching too to make a better system for a human and a humankind. And in those systems, how do they vote? And I know all the millenniums, they must demand too the electoral college, it must end, and we must go back the system of voting as an artisanal voting, which every citizens, their vote should be counted, not by a computer, not by a technology, by a people. And all this vote should be counted, and witnesses of those interests, and should be certified at the end of the day, and letting know who is the winner. Because as you see now, Donald J. Trump, Cambridge Analytica, one of those data systems that help the voting. That's why he wins. So what trust can we have to those systems, to the technologies? So that's why March for Our Life, and March for our planet, and March for our system to create better world in this human idea of peace. And thank you guys and all these kids like marching. Thank you. And those millenniums too. I'm thankful for their leadership. I think I trust them more with their leadership. I've been watching them. I've been telling them. I've been contacting them to the Twitters that those idea, that's the we want for tomorrow, because your idea, you're acting as a leader of this world, because we have someone at the White House in acting as a child with the family interests. So we don't want that. We want a human interests. March for Our Life, March for Our Revolutionary States of America, E.R.A. Thank you. Peace, and stay strong to those millenniums, to those young kids marching for our life.